Frank Burnett, Carson. Gentleman brought up a long time ago, quite some time ago, been watching it. Mr. Carson had a tree bid. It was $2,800, as I remember. He was paid, I see by the payment, he was only paid $1,050. That leaves a $1,750 balance, which I can't account for. I don't see anything on payments that's been paid since July.
Okay,
I'd like to have an answer and transparency on why he wasn't paid, or what the problem is with him not being paid.
Where was the work being done, Frank, you know?
Huh?
Where was the work done?
Good tree bid, down the park.
Down at Park.
We believe he's paid in full for the trees he's cut down, and I don't think he's complaining about anything. He didn't get awarded all the trees that he had on the bid sheet, but, so that's why he didn't get paid the full $2,800, but he was paid for the work he's done, and I don't think he's complaining about not being paid.
Why was he not allowed to do the work then, and get paid for it?
He didn't get awarded the bid on all the trees.
He didn't get the bid? That wasn't my understanding. He bid the
We
tree
explained
business.
this, I think we explained this once to the commission, we can go through it again.
Yeah, why don't we?
Pro Tree Service submitted a written bid for a certain number of trees. Mr. Carson did a verbal tree bid, and Mr. Lamb with Pro Tree Service was the low bidder. Okay? In the meantime, LaForge and Bud, when they were doing the project down there, came up with some more trees that they needed done. That time, Debbie had hurt her foot and Terry hadn't gotten to the trees that he'd been bid, and so we didn't call Pro Tree Service to give us a bid on the additional trees that LaForge needed done. We just called Carson and said, can you give us a quote on what it's going to cost to cut these additional trees down? He submitted a written bid at that time with the additional trees, as well as he lowered the price on his original trees that he had did the verbal bid for before. However, we had already awarded those to Terry, so we just awarded him the trees that he had. There was one additional tree out there that I think Mr. Carson was maybe $100 lower on, but Pro Tree Service was already out there cutting the other trees down. That tree had to come down immediately, and we didn't know when Mr. Carson was going to show up to do that tree, so we went ahead and awarded, just said, while you're out here, Pro Tree Service, just for $100 difference, just get this tree down because we need it down now. So all the trees that Mr. Carson was awarded, he's cut down and he's been paid for.
Did he send us an invoice on the agreed to amount?
That I don't know, I assume so.
There would have been one and we
Yeah.
paid you.
So the invoice has been paid in
Yeah.
full.
And we've explained that, I think, here in this meeting before.
As I remember, it was $2,800. Mr. Carson was awarded a tree bid in the records. I'd have to go back and find that.
I believe that's incorrect.
It's pretty sketchy, you know. We're playing the game
Frank,
here.
what's sketchy about it? What's sketchy about it?
Well, we're playing the game on this deal, bidding jobs and cutting them in pieces and not honoring them, and verbal jobs and stuff. We need to get down to truth and transparency on this.
I think city staff disagrees on that.
Okay.
And I think it's your responsibility to see that that's done. If we don't have truth and transparency, we just start chopping things up and giving to who and what and changing ideas and verbal and this and that. You're going nowhere, man. You're going nowhere. If you don't get it right, you're not going to ever get it right. It needs to be written, it needs to be agreed to, and honored. So this is some of your job, and you ought to look into it.
Well, it sounds to me, if an invoice was made, that's an agreement, and if it's paid in full, that's the execution of the agreement. So I don't know, I'm not sure I understand where it is.
Well, the deal is, did you have a written agreement? No, then you start chopping it up, then you say, oh, well, you can do this, you can do this, you can do that. Man, that's sloppy business, sloppy business.
Has Mr. Carson approached any of you?
I've heard a lot of stories about it, and I just wanted the truth and transparency. You can start adding them up.
I do think Mr. Carson had some questions at the very beginning when he wasn't awarded the additional trees that the second time he submitted the bid, the original trees, his bid was actually lower than Pro Tree Service, but we had already awarded those to Pro Tree Service based on Mr. Carson's first bid that was actually higher. And I think he had a question about that, and that was, so I do know he approached us about that. Now, I didn't talk to him, I think he talked to Daryl, so, but that was explained to him, that since all of that has transpired, I don't think we've had any contact or any questions from him that I'm aware of.
And Daryl offered for him to come in and see the paperwork.
Yeah.
I think your bidding process and your awarding and your agreements, these gentlemen's agreements and handshake ought to be looked into, period.
All right, thank you, sir.
Not tomorrow, or next day.